All right, hey, it's Scott Penfold here with you for another edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. And this week, I'm going to be joined by Jules from Loaded Radio. In the second portion, we're going to be talking about the top 13 most genre-defining bands in new metal, or rather from new metal. So you may want to stick around for that. Some good discussion there, as there's a new article up at loadedradio.com, which pretty much covers those very bands and that countdown. So you can check that out there as well. But I'm also going to be talking with Chase Wilson. He is the guitar player for the blackened, which I guess you call them blackened metalcore, possibly, or just even like just a straight up extreme metal band, man. I'm talking about SULFUR, of course, and Chase Wilson is the guitar player and as well as a co-vocalist in the band. And we're going to be talking to him as they have the new album called The Burden of Faith, which is available now, and essential listening if you dig it, heavy and extreme, man, of SULFUR, that band. So yeah, a good podcast for you this week. Just a reminder, if you're listening to us via YouTube, give this video a like and subscribe to the page as well. And also be sure to follow us on Spotify or wherever you do get your podcasts, okay? But as I was saying, going to be talking to this guy now. He is the guitar player and co-vocalist for the band of SULFUR, hailing from Las Vegas, Nevada. And they have the new album out now. It is called The Burden of Faith, Essential Listening, man. It is a brutal album, but also very beautiful in parts as well. I'm talking about Chase Wilson from SULFUR. Chase, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us on the podcast this week.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Before we actually get into the album, I do want to talk about how the band came together. Obviously, ex-Suffokate frontman Ricky Hoover. How did the band essentially get together with Ricky, and how did the whole of SULFUR come to be?
Pretty much it all happened during pandemic. I had quit my band, and Ricky was looking for musicians to play with. So we had a mutual friend, and he had made a post on like Instagram or something like that. Yeah. And she sent me the post, and she said, "Hey, I put your name in the ring," and it said like, "I want to play technical death metal." And I was like, "Well, I don't play technical death metal." I'm like, I mean, I was like, thank you for believing my abilities, but I'm all right. I'm not that good. Right. And she was like, well, I think he just wants people to play with. So, I told him to hit you up, and I was like, yeah, sure, Ricky Hoover, hook me up, whatever. And that night he actually messaged me and was like, "Hey man, like I saw some of your videos on your Instagram, and I really like your guitar. Did you want to start a band?" And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of like how it started. I got a couple local guys together, and we've gone through a couple member changes, but me and Ricky have stayed the constant. So that's kind of how it came to be.
And you guys are Las Vegas local, correct?
We are Las Vegas. I'm Las Vegas born and bred, actually.
Oh, beautiful, man. No, like we're actually based out of Las Vegas in Toronto. So that's phenomenal, man. That's great.
Oh, no way. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So we'll swing back to that. When it comes to classifying, you know how every sort of metal band has to have a classification of sort of from the stuff I've heard from you guys. I hear mixes of elements of metalcore. I hear elements of death metal. I hear elements of black metal. What would you classify the band as if you had to classify it, or do you think screw that, we're just making what we're making?
I mean, at the end of the day, we decided to go off the sound of what people are calling like blackened deathcore, which is a mix of like black metal and deathcore, which Lorna Shore and Shadow of Intent and a few others are kind of like the kind of killing the genre right now. It's like they're doing amazing. And that at the end of the day is like what we want our bass sound to be, but we have so many different influences. Like you said, you'll hear like a little bit of metalcore. You'll hear like you can even hear like a kind of like a dad rock chorus in like some of the songs. Like it's kind of all over the place, but at the end of the day, I would say black and deathcore is kind of our base, and that's what we base the sound off of.
Cool, man. And it really comes off nice too. Really, really crunchy, really heavy. I think it's awesome. Now tell me about working with Morgoth Beats on this album, man. How was that?
It was awesome. I mean, Winds of Plague is one of the OGs of doing this type of sound with like symphonic elements and everything like that. So when his name got brought up, we kind of were like, yeah, that makes total sense. And, I kind of was thinking like he could add his pop influence in it too, because he's done stuff with like Machine Gun Kelly and Juice WRLD and all sorts of stuff. So And I think it played really nicely. I was very stoked to have him on the team.
He does have that sort of, I don't know what he brings to it, but it's a certain thing that you can sort of tell that it's like his touch on it. You know what I mean? And you can definitely hear it with your stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, man. Now tell me about the song Earthen. First off, a great track, man. Killer, crunchy guitars, man. An emotionally, I think, driven video. Tell me about the song.
Thanks, man. That's actually the first song I wrote for the album. We had come back from a tour with Signs of the Swarm and Worm Shepherd.
Yeah.
And I sat down at my computer and that's what came out. And I was looking to like write kind of like a sadder, more emotional deathcore song. So I sent it off to Ricky, and Ricky wanted to make it a tribute to his nephew who had passed away from cancer, which, you know, that is the basis of the song. But yeah, man, I mean, that song, it means a lot to Ricky, and honestly, it means a lot to me because, like I said, it was the first thing I wrote, so it's kind of my baby. I that was the one song I kind of wrote completely by myself as well. So to have it be well received as it has been is amazing, to say the least. So it's a very, very awesome piece of work that I'm very proud of.
Like a disturbing, sad video as well, man. It's tough to watch.
It's very tough to watch. Ricky had sent that to me, and you know, he told me he wanted to make it like pretty much exactly like what happened, and he did. And when I got it, like I won't lie, I cried for a little bit, and I was like, it's perfect. I was like, you know, like this is a great video to tribute your nephew with. So, and like Vicente and Missy absolutely killed the art direction and the direction of the actors and stuff like that. So yeah, they're just awesome.
Now I got to bring up some of the guests on this album, dude. I mean, you got some great names. First off, how'd you get Howard Jones involved for the song Wide Open? How'd that happen?
Well, that was kind of lucky. So like, yeah, our A&R guy Gitter is good friends with Howard Jones, and he was like, what do you think about singing on this song? And we had Wide Open. We released it before as like kind of like a standalone single. Yeah. And our A&R guy talked to Howard. He's like, what would you think about singing on this song? And Howard goes, yeah, that would be great. And I was blown away because that's one of my favorite vocalists from when I was like in high school and stuff like that. So to have Howard on a track is like kind of a dream come true for me. So yeah, that was insane. And then Alex the Terrible, Kyle, Lindsay, Taylor, every guest track kind of has its own thing that I love about it. You know what I mean? Like it's so unfair to say one is like better than the other or anything like that, but they all absolutely killed their parts on the album.
I gotta ask, how did Lindsay get involved? Is it sort of like a similar situation?
So yeah, Lindsay's actually a friend of the band's, and
nice, dude.
you know, yeah. She knows our manager Brad, and you know, through Brad, she knows all of us. And like, you know, I thought, what better, you know, track to have her on than the title track. She's got a beautiful voice, and you know, I thought that's kind of like a beautiful song. So I was like, might as well just have her put her touch on the chorus. I mean, why not? You know.
You're right. She really does fit so well with that track as well. I do want to bring up Taylor Barber from Left to Suffer for the song Unraveling. How'd that happen?
That's my guy. I love that guy, man. Again, he's a friend of the band. We did some dates in July with him, and you know, Ricky's talked to him for quite a bit on the internet as well. And you know, we asked him if he wanted to be involved. He said absolutely, and it's I don't know if you've heard the track or not, but he absolutely annihilated his guest part. He does some crazy sounds, and it's just insane. Dude is a vocal machine.
He definitely is, man. That's so cool. I mean, and the whole album as a whole, I haven't heard it all yet. I want to hear it front to back. I want to sit down, like put on a big set of headphones and just crank the shit out of it front to back. I want to really experience it because, I mean, from what I've heard, it's just such an onslaught of like it's a pulverizing attack, man. It's just great.
It is. And like, honestly, like it's kind of like that throughout the whole thing. It's like what I always tell people is like a good mix of disgusting and beautiful. It's disgustingly heavy, but it does have those great melodic parts and hooks and everything like that. And it's kind of like what I've always wanted to do with music. I wanted to make something that's equally heavy as it is like pretty, you know?
Certainly so, man. And just as a personal question, how do you find the extreme metal scene within Las Vegas right now?
I've been in it since I was like 15 or 16, and I feel like it's better now than it has ever been. There's so many great bands out here. You have Sheer Cold, who are like great locals. It's a deathcore band. Their vocalist is pretty insane. You have metalcore bands like Imperial Tide, who are like, kind of like straight from the path. Like it's ever growing. And the hardcore scene here is absolutely amazing too. You got Spirit World, who are our label mates, Scrutiny, Chasm. There's so many I could list that are really, really good. But I feel like it's ever expanding, just like the city is. Like within the last 5 years, even the city has grown so much.
Yeah.
I could see the music scene growing as well. It's kind of nice to see after, years and years of doing it.
Now, would you say that the backstage is still kind of the home base for extreme metal in Vegas?
Backstage bar and billiards?
Yeah.
yeah, actually. Yeah, yep. That is the spot. For hardcore, it's more so American Legion, but backstage bar and billiards will always have the metal scenes back. There will always be great shows that go on there, So I'm forever grateful for that place for sure.
I've seen so many brutal bands play that venue, man. I mean, countless bands. It's the home for extreme metal in Vegas, man. I don't think it's going to change.
No, I will agree with you 110%. It is the home for extreme metal in Vegas for sure.
Totally, man. It's like what Vamped is for hair metal, same deal.
Oh man, yeah, I know. I mean, there was one time where Vamped actually did have like an extreme metal show there, and really? I think it was the only one they ever had. Yeah, it was Molotov Solution and King Conquer.
Now, getting into you and your involvement as a musician, as a player, who are 3 important metal bands to you? Who are those bands that you heard that you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do?
Oh, that's easy. Trivium, Killswitch Engage, and Pantera. All 3 bands had a huge influence on my playing, had a huge impact on, listening to metal. Like those were like my gateway bands, I feel like. I mean, honorable mention would be like Avenged Sevenfold and As I Lay Dying as well. But, the top 3 that I know every single word to, I know every single melody, I could probably play all the songs, like would probably be Trivium and Killswitch Engage, Pantera. Those are absolutely top 3.
Cool. What do you think about the I guess Pantera, I get tribute, reunion, whatever you want to call those 4 guys being out there touring under the name Pantera right now? What do you think of that?
Man, a lot of people are like complaining about it, and like I'm a huge Dime fan. Like I forever will be a huge Dime fan. But if there was anybody who was gonna take, the mantle or anything, it would be Zakk Wylde. And like Phil Anselmo is just like an insane vocalist. I saw him do the Vulgar Display of Pantera set with the Illegals when they opened for Slayer.
Yeah.
And just, I was like the closest thing I could get to Pantera. So I was so stoked I'd never got to see them live. So for people who have never seen Pantera, I think it's a great, great thing. I think it's awesome.
So obviously coming up in the days ahead, then after the album drops, you guys going to be on the road for a while. What are you going to be doing? Some touring?
Yeah. We actually have our album release show next week at Backstage Bar and Billiards.
Right on, dude. That's awesome.
Yep. And then we're going on tour with Chelsea Grin and Carnifex. And it starts on the 13th and ends May 17th in Vegas at Fremont Country Club right next door. So
excellent, man.
Yeah. So we're constantly there, man. That's why I thought it was funny that you brought that up. But we're doing a lot, and like hopefully there's more throughout the year. Nothing that I can like say or is for sure, but hopefully you see a lot more of us this year.
Beautiful, man. I will see you at Backstage Bar and Billiards, my friend.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Definitely say hi. We'll grab a drink or something. Thank you again for having me.
All the best, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
Definitely. Take it easy.
There he is. That's Chase Wilson from the band of SULFUR. The new album is out now. The debut album is out now, called The Burden of Faith. And yeah, I definitely recommend it if you like it. Brutal and heavy, yet also a little bit beautiful at the same time. You know what I mean? It's a Loaded Radio podcast. It's Scott Penfold here being joined by Jules. Jules, good to have you here again there, buddy.
It's nice to be here, dude.
There is a new article up at loadradio.com. By the way, check out loadradio.com for all your hard rock and metal news. Our 24-hour stream is there as well. Jules, what else we got?
You can also check out what tour dates are happening.
Yes.
And
past podcasts.
That's all right. And you know what? All the in-stream shows, because we've got everything from archives to the Evil 13 countdown. And Rewind. Sinister
Sunday. Your show, Locked and Loaded Saturday.
That's right.
Yeah, good show.
That's every Saturday, by the way, guys.
Yeah, it is. But what we're going to do, though, is we're going to actually discuss something, a new article that was just posted at loadradio.com, which I think is quite interesting because I think the genre itself is seeing a resurgence, and I'm talking about nu metal. Now, nu metal is spelled NU-metal.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's not brand new metal.
No, it's not brand new metal.
No.
But it's a nu metal, and it's kind of seeing a bit of a resurgence as of late. We're talking about bands, of course, like Korn. I mean, Korn and Deftones and System, they've never really gone anywhere. They've sort of always been there, right?
Absolutely. But it all starts from somewhere.
It does, man. Nu metal really got its start back in the 1990s. What we're going to do, though, because we just posted this article online, is the top 13 nu metal bands that really define the genre, Jules.
Yeah, that's right. It's not only, top 13 bands now.
Right.
But the ones that actually started the nu metal craze.
Yeah, exactly. They really got new, because nu metal was, remember when nu metal was huge, dude? Like
when it was new?
Yeah, anyway, but do you remember early 2000s when nu metal just hit and everyone was listening to Limp Bizkit and Korn and of course Deftones still around, but I mean all these bands that were coming out and it was becoming it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was like metal but infused also with a bit of hip hop, and it wasn't weird to have like a DJ with you as well, right?
Exactly. And some techno elements in there, and it was nuts.
And that's why I think they're doing that Sick New World Festival in Vegas, right?
Yes, which is happening on May 13th. And it's going to be a great day, man, happening this Saturday. Loaded Radio is going to be there. We're going to have a lot of fun that day.
Yeah, and it's a lot of new metal bands there.
Have you got the lineup actually for that festival? Because I know that we've looked at it before, but I know that, who's playing this thing, Josie?
All right, so it's headlined with System of a Down, and we've got Korn and Deftones, Incubus, Chevelle, Papa Roach, Soulfly, Seven Dust, Spirit Box, Body Count.
Dude.
Orgy.
This is like a Jules festival.
I know. It's true. But yeah, just tons of bands like that. You can check that out by going on the website.
But yeah, what we're going to do, though, is go over the top 13 most influential, I'd say, nu metal bands of all time. It was just posted at loadradio.com. And we're going to get into it right now for you, okay? So first off, number 13 went to Edema, which was a band that formed back in 2000. It was actually formed by Mark Chavez. And Mark Chavez, Jules, he just happens to be the half-brother of Korn lead vocalist Jonathan Davis.
Yeah, which, you know what? I guess he's just trying to do what his big brother does.
I guess so, man. They were a cool band. I remember when Edema was around, and their debut album came out in 2001. They had the big hit single Giving In, and great sounding band. And yeah, that's number 13.
Exactly. So, that's how it starts. Yep. What's 12?
Number 12, Static X.
Yeah, and Static X actually has this resurgence now, right?
Because, they do. Well, they're still going, dude.
Yeah. Well, the original lead singer,
Wayne Static's dead. Yeah, he passed away.
He passed away, but they did get a new vocalist, which is the singer from Dope, right?
Now, is it Edsel Dope? It hasn't really confirmed it, but I mean, Edsel's a big part of it. But I think he wears this big mask and stuff, and I mean, like Tony Campos on bass. I mean, the band sounds killer. But yeah, they are still touring. It's a well-known thing that it is Edsel Dope.
Yeah, they're just trying to keep the Static X dream alive, man.
And you can't go wrong with that, man. They've been around. Static X really formed back in 1994 by Wayne Static. Wayne sincerely missed by metal fans worldwide. Number 11 went to El Nino, Julesy, Great New Jersey. Sort of nu metal band with a lot of Latin influence, a lot of Latin rhythm kind of.
Yeah, which makes sense because it was Mark Rizzo, who's he was the former guitar player for Soulfly.
That's right, he was
right,
yeah.
And he was with El Nino, and I was back.
With El Nino. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think things really worked out with him and Soulfly. Him and Max Cavalera sort of had a bit of a falling out during COVID.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, some kind of thing happened there. But yeah, Mark Rizzo back with El Nino, which is a cool thing. Number 10 goes to the band Spineshank. Now, Spineshank were formed back in 1996, came out of California. The debut album is called Strictly Diesel, dropped in 1998. A great band, a very great, they encapsulated the essence of nu metal, I think, really, really well.
Yeah, and they were California metal. And you know what? I didn't even know a whole lot about this band, but you know what? They were featured as a part of Ozfest 2001. So if you're part of Ozfest and you're playing with like Disturbed and Headpee and Mudvayne, right? You're doing a good job.
You're doing a great job. And they're a killer band. Number 9 goes to Mudvayne. Mudvayne, of course, they just reformed back in 2021. I got to talk to you about this because obviously Chad from Mudvayne was singing with Vinnie Paul in Hell Yeah for a long time, for many years.
Hell yeah, he was.
Hell yeah, he was. You and I, of course, we knew Vinnie.
Yes, we did.
And the thing is, like when I remember when you and I were at Vinny's place and just his passion about Hell Yeah and how he was so into Hell Yeah. And Hell Yeah was really like a tight brotherhood of guys, phenomenal players as well.
Yeah, and he picked some great people to be part of that project.
I think so too. One being, of course, what would have been Chad, who was with Mudvayne for years. Of course, Chad now back with Mudvayne, and it's a big deal. I mean, people are really excited that Mudvayne are back out of Illinois, of course, been around since 1996.
Yeah, I remember listening to the song "Happy."
Yeah, that was one of the big tracks.
Yeah, exactly.
That really put them on the map, dude. And that to this day, this song is
holds up.
Yeah. Oh, this next band, Jules, I'll let you do this one. Go ahead.
Damn right, it's Seven Dust.
Yeah, number 8.
I love Seven Dust so much, and they're still going. They are also on the Sick New World Music Festival happening in Vegas,
which is I think it's amazing that they put this festival together because I mean you were just mentioning some of the lineup. You didn't mention the whole lineup, but some of the lineup. But I mean, we're talking about all of these bands. Essentially, they're kind of on that lineup. Including bands like Kitty, including Spirit Box, a more modern band. But I love how they're integrating sort of like new metal with the new metal, and I just think it's a great thing, dude. It's gonna be a killer festival.
And you know what? Seven Dust had so many albums out, and the first one I remember was Home, which was like 1999. And that had Denial on it, had Angel Sun. Oh, it's so friggin' good.
Well, the first album came out back in 97, of course. And of course, Black being the track that really put them on the map with that one. So Seven Dust, a very rightful spot, I think, on the list, Jules.
I agree.
At number 7, we have Papa Roach, who, they've been around since 1993. They formed in Vacaville, California. These guys, a great band. We've spoken to them many times here on Loaded Radio. And yeah, when it comes to new metal, I think these guys really encapsulated. I remember Jules being at Ozfest back, it would have been 1999's Ozfest, and it was Papa Roach, Slipknot, Disturbed was on. I mean, there were some great bands. It was a great lineup, and that whole new metal was just so big back then, dude.
Oh, huge. And they're still doing stuff like Last Resort. That was their first like kind of big mainstream thing.
Broken Home, Last Resort.
And that was in 2000, and it's like 2023 now, and they're still giving her.
I know. You know what drives me nuts too is that Jacoby doesn't age, dude.
No, and he plays with so many different people.
I know he does, right? Phenomenal guy, phenomenal frontman, and we'll continue with the list though. Down to number 6, System of a Down, which you cannot argue. I mean, I don't care who you are, you can't argue with the fact that System of a Down are one of the forerunners of new metal.
Absolutely, and they are the headliners for the Sick New World Festival.
That's right, dude. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised, and this may be a personal preference. I thought Deftones would have been the headline spot, but it's actually. Do you have the lineup there in front of you? Do you have it there with you? Like Deftones is up there.
Yeah, it is.
So I mean, System. Okay, so System, Core, and Deftones, and Incubus are like the big headliners.
Exactly, all 4 of them are the headliners.
Yeah, as they should be. I mean, that's going to be a killer day. But like for the one day, the one band that's going to close the festival is System.
Yeah,
right?
And I'm just jazzed. I actually haven't seen System live, and I just love Serge Tankian's voice because he's trained operatic singer. Yeah, right. Yeah. Just like the Freddie Mercury's of our days, pretty much, right? Dude, just a little heavier.
I saw System of a Down play at a festival back in would have been 2011, I think 2012, and it was called Heavy TO, and they did a great job. It was awesome to see them. It was a bucket list, and it was a great performance, and I was so happy to see it. So, obviously, a really rightful place there. They've been around since 1994. Establishing themselves as one of the most innovative and politically charged new metal bands. They just, they brought it, man. They brought it in every single way, and they still are to this day. It'd be great if they could actually sort of convene and get together and release some new music.
That's the plan, apparently.
Is it really?
Yes.
There's some talk about that, but I mean, I know it's hard because I know that Serge doesn't want to tour per se. He'll do these festivals, but I don't think he wants to hit the road and tour.
Well, We'll see. We'll ask him. Get him on the horn.
Exactly. Get him on the horn. Number 5 goes to Slipknot. A band that has, I think, surpassed just the new metal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a stigma, but the label, and they're essentially one of the biggest bands in metal and heavy music today.
It's true, but at the time when they came out, there was a lot of new metal bands, and I think they did have that bit of there's kind of a beat with some of their songs. Like Wait and Bleed even.
Yeah, of course. And of course, Sid Wilson there doing the turntables, and who they still have Sid, who is doing a great job as their DJ, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's what it is having, like I said earlier, a DJ also within your metal band, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, we're going to get to Deftones eventually. They're on the list. I mean, Deftones have Frank Delgado. And you think about all these bands. Incubus, another one. Exactly. You know what I mean? Where they've used the turntables as an instrument. So, I mean, I think that was a big part of new metal, Jules. I remember when you turned on the radio, like in the early 2000s, it was all like, and big, heavy riffs, right? Like, that's what we were listening to.
Why not just make a whole new subgenre out of it, right?
Exactly. So there we go. Slipknot coming in at number 5 on the list of the most influential new metal bands of all time. Number 4 goes to Limp Bizkit.
Damn straight.
There you go. I mean, it's been around since 1994.
That Significant Other album was huge.
It was $3 Bill Y'all was their debut. We were talking about this the other night.
Yeah, that had the cover of Faith
by George Michael. Another band that used a DJ as one of their members, and they're back now. And of course, they're doing stuff. They're releasing new music. And Limp Bizkit is the band. I think that back then they were the forerunners of new metal. And then when you look at the Woodstock performance and Fred Durst, what happened there, it kind of, I think, put a real damper on their career. That was kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, you saw the documentary, right?
Just because you wrote break stuff doesn't mean you need to break stuff.
Exactly.
But on that album, they also had, I remember there's this wicked song, In Together, and that was with Method Man too, right? So that had this whole other different side of it, and there
was a big inclusion of hip hop and rap into metal, which I think was cool, and it really started with the soundtrack to the movie Judgment Night. Remember that?
Yeah, as long as it's still heavy, you can add it in. It works.
It was a great soundtrack, by the way, like Slayer and Ice-T and stuff. It was so good. But yeah, Limp Bizkit, who are still around and still apparently there's going to be new Limp Bizkit music on the way at some point very soon, according to the band, and they're coming in number 4. Here we go. The top 3 though of the top new metal bands that really defined the genre, according to LoadedRadio.com. At number 3, Linkin Park.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, what can you say about Linkin Park? I mean, Mike Shinoda has recently been more into the forefront of things, talking about, of course, they just re-released Meteora for the 20th anniversary. Those who are waiting for Linkin Park to do like a hologram show with Chester Bennington is not going to happen.
Yeah, well, don't wait for that. That's silly.
It is.
But you know what? I saw Linkin Park live, and I didn't even mean to see them live. I went to buy tickets for 30 Seconds to Mars. That was opening up for them.
Yeah.
But thank God I saw Chester's voice like live. Just blew me out of the water.
Yeah.
And their songs are so good. And they've got the DJ in there as well, right?
They do. I don't think we're going to be seeing any more Linkin Park at any time.
No, but they hold a heavy place in this list and with their whole catalog of music.
You can't deny that Linkin Park was such a significant part of new metal. Number 2 spot goes to my favorite band, Deftones. These guys have been around since '88, of course, out of Sacramento, California. They've had a couple of lineup changes more when it comes to, obviously we lost Chi Cheng, who was the original bass player. He was replaced by Sergio Vega. He's no longer with the band now, but the band does continue. And I mean, the White Pony album, their 3rd release.
Yeah, that was their biggest breakthrough.
Monumental, man. Came out in 2000. Changing the House of Flies. The song Changing the House of Flies was the song that I think really introduced a lot of people to Deftones, me included. You know, I was like, who's this band? But they had already released 2 great albums like Adrenaline and Around the Fur before they even dropped White Pony.
Yeah, but this is the one that kind of hit a bit more mainstream. But you know what? The other albums were still good enough that you wanted to look into more Deftones stuff, right?
You did, so
then you're able to listen to those other albums.
It opened up their library, you know what I mean? Which, and again, Deftones, one of my favorite bands of all time. They're just great. They're still going, and, God love them, man. The number 1 spot, obviously, I think people are going to know this off the cuff. It's going to be Korn.
Yeah.
Who formed back in 1993 in Bakersfield, California. These guys, they're credited with starting the genre that was, or even is, new metal.
Yeah, and you know what?
Do you agree?
I don't fight it. I don't fight that. And we've seen Korn.
You and I saw Korn, I think, twice at least.
But when I was in high school, I got that Follow the Leader album. Yeah. And I played that to death. It was like the best thing ever. And you know what? Still, when you see them to this day, John Davies still brings out the bagpipes randomly.
He does. That's right, man.
How do you have enough air in your lungs at this age?
I know. And you can't go wrong with Monkey, of course, on guitar. You can't go wrong with the fact that Brian had Welch back with the band as well. Fieldy, he is still in the band. He's been dealing with some stuff, but Fieldy's bass playing, I think, is such a big part of that band too, Jules.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? so many albums, and they've done so many different things. They even did that album for Sucker Punch with Skrillex.
Yeah, the album with Skrillex. What was the name of the album, Jules?
The Path of Totality.
Path of Totality, man, and a different departure for Korn. This is right before Brian Head Wells came back with the band, but still, a ripping album, man. I mean, for some of the DJ gigs you and I used to do, we used to play that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was so aggressive for when that dubstep kind of thing was coming into play, but totally, it worked.
It really did. So essentially, there you go. It is the top 13 most influential, I'd say, or the bands that really defined the genre that was nu metal, courtesy of loaderradio.com, right there for you. Again, you can't really deny the fact that Korn really belong in that top spot, Julesy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to find out more about each one of these bands, you can check out on loaderradio.com, and the article's up there, and that is your 13 most influential nu metal bands.
Definitely check that out. loaderradio.com is where you want to go as well. You can get past episodes of this very podcast at loaderradio.com as well, wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be Spotify, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We got them all over the place. They're right there for you too. Jules as well, loaderradio.com has got your updated hard rock and metal news on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's right. And if you go to your in-stream shows, you can also listen to this podcast as well as my show every Saturday.
Yeah, this is the online radio station.
That's right. And your rewinds and your archives. And we will talk to you next time on the podcast.
So tune in next week for an all-new edition, an all-new interview, and an all-new discussion right here on the
Loaded Radio Podcast.
We'll talk to you next week.